Excellent. You're the first one today. It was a hit right off the bat, bestseller. And in 1906, it was performed as a play on Broadway, where again it did very, very well. Now, not to be outdone, over the next 90 years, the film industry, believe this or not, produced 10 different movies based on the novel, including 3 in Bollywood, as recently as 1997. Now, for the uninitiated, the original 1902 plot is this. Montgomery Brewster, in order to inherit $3 million, must spend $1 million within a year. 1902. Of course, there are rules preventing him from, just gambling it all away or giving it away to his friends or spending it on a single item. And by the way, as he's doing it, he can't tell anybody what he's supposed to be doing. And as the story unfolds, as you can well imagine, Brewster runs into all kinds of difficulty trying to offload this $1 million. Well, of course, as the movie gets updated, inflation takes over, and Richard Pryor, with the comic assistance of John Candy and Rick Moranis, stumbles through a similar plot, trying desperately to unload, in this case, $30 million in 30 days, with the likelihood to inherit, in order to inherit, $300 million. Well, anybody seen that movie, or you with me now? This is, you guys got to get out more. Well, look, if there's any redeeming moral to the story, it is paradoxically this. One needs to learn to risk it all in order to grow up in wisdom. One needs to learn to risk everything in order to grow in wisdom. Now, Jesus never made it to Broadway or Bollywood, or did he make it to the bestseller list of the New York Times. But the parable of the talents that Sharon just read to you preempts Brewster's moral lesson, doesn't it? Now keep in mind, this parable is coming near to the end of the gospel, to the end of Jesus' ministry. Now, Jesus is, at this stage of his life, is being very directive and very much focused on his closest followers with this particular teaching. Jesus is trying to offer his friends a picture of what life and ministry is going to be like as agents and as actors in this thing called God's kingdom. Now look, as listeners to this, try not to get stuck on the details, the 5 and the 2 and the 1 talents, and why does the guy with 5 talents get the poor schmuck who didn't do anything and get his 1 talent? Don't get stuck there. You see, the overarching word Jesus is trying to convey is that we have all been blessed with spiritual gifts and natural talents. And if we want to please God and be servants of Jesus in this world, we must be willing, in other words, to risk it all. We must be willing to risk it all, because ironically, the more we risk, the more we will grow in wisdom. The more we risk, the more we will grow in a prudence which will help us make good and better choices as we conscientiously and creatively choose to reach out and minister to the world through those doors right there. In other words, take the chance and act. Act for God's sakes. Act for heaven's sakes. This is Jesus' word to us today. Well, it seems kind of propitious, doesn't it? Because over the last while, you as St. Jude's and as individual folk here have been spending considerable time and energy discerning exactly what your personal and corporate gifts are. And if St. Jude's was a character in Jesus' parable, the talent numbers would have to be multiplied into the hundreds. You as a people, in my estimation, as I have observed you over these last number of months, are rich beyond compare. Look to the life-giving gifts of your story. Look to how you identify yourself when you're at your best. Look at the richness of your core values and the vision that you've discerned that God hopes and dreams for you. And more specifically from our last town hall, the individual spiritual gifts you possess and the ministry opportunities that you have identified for St. Jude's and for London and area. God certainly outstrips Brewster's millions as God pours out a never-ending flow of blessings on you folks. And of course, Jesus teaches us, and this is part of the parable, isn't it, that with such abundance comes great responsibility. Did you happen to note the irony in the parable? The master condemns that one talent servant, not for the prospect of losing the talent. Rather, the servant is in big trouble because he didn't even take the slightest chance, didn't take any risk at all. Inaction. An unwillingness to lay it on the line, a fear of daring to venture anything, refusing the effort, or being afraid to just simply be imaginative, or be creative, or try something new or different, is where the servant failed, and therefore was judged unfit and judged harshly. Goodness gracious, sounds like a fearful responsibility, doesn't it, that you're carrying around? But at the same time, it's a great and it's a wonderful opportunity. Don't you see? Jesus is actually giving you permission to turn it all loose, to risk it all, to be more than you ever thought or ever imagined possible for this community. And you want to know something else? There's a very immediate opportunity to practice this kind of radical venture undertaking. Today, right here and right now, we are welcoming into Jesus' family. We are welcoming Lorraine and Ashton and Melvie through the waters of baptism, through the gift of baptism. It's as if, incredibly, God is saying to you today, you need even more. And here is the more. In your discerning about what St. Jude's needs as it moves into its immediate future, you know what I've observed, and you likely have too, there's a common theme that weaves its way through all your conversations, all your negotiating at those various tables, and it's mentioned over and over and over in the details of it all written out. Remember what it is? We need more people. And then in capital letters, we need more youth. Well, surprise, surprise, here they are. So what are you going to do about it? Well, what a good time to practice welcome. What a great time to practice the inclusiveness you identify yourself as possessing. What a great time to practice reaching out that you claim that you cherish. What a great time to help and encourage and be opening and nurturing. What a splendid opportunity to share and teach the faith and introduce these folks to your friend Jesus. Risk it. Dare it. Think of this maybe as, think of this as venture capital for your future in God's kingdom, right here and right now. My brothers and sisters, you are indeed a blessed people. To Melvie, where's Melvie? Melvie, okay, and to Ashton, and to Lorraine, we say, welcome. Welcome. You are becoming part of an absolutely great, phenomenal community of people. And you are indeed a blessing to us. Our promise to you is this, that we will cherish you, just as Jesus cherishes you. Welcome. A great story is unfolding here, and we are really, really glad that you are going to be a part of it. All of this in Jesus' name.